Hey, everybody, welcome into Faith in Football. My name is Neil. In today's episode, we're going to be continuing our series, Old Faces, New Places, Wide Receiver Edition today. Now, before we jump into this list of wide receivers that have found a new home, some of them may have found the promised land, some of them maybe they're still wandering around the wilderness. We need to go back a little bit, and I need to correct something that I said in the last episode when I was talking about stacked boxes. I ran through the list of offensive line, not defensive line. Now, for those newbies in here, I apologize. For those veterans, I misspoke. Sorry, it happens. I get excited about this stuff. So, to clarify, a stacked box when you're speaking about a running back is when you have defenses run either a 4-3 or a 3-4. Those are the defensive schemes that most NFL teams run. Now, they have different variations, but that's the basics. So you have four down linemen. So you're talking two defensive ends, two defensive tackles, and then you have a middle linebacker, a left linebacker, a right linebacker. Then you have your two safeties and your two cornerbacks. That makes up your 11 personnel for the defense. Now, when you're running a 3-4, you have what's called a defensive tackle. Then you have a nose tackle, then two defensive tackles, a inside left and inside right linebacker, a outside left and outside right linebacker. And then, of course, your cornerbacks and safeties. Now, when you're talking about a stacked box, typically there's only 7 people that are down in the box. When you get a stacked box, the defense will drop one more man, possibly two, depending upon the lineup, into the area where the linebackers are. That makes a stacked box. So I hope that clarifies any confusion that may have been caused by last episode's misspeaking. Sorry, guys. And look, if you guys ever catch me misspeaking, please, down at the bottom, right after you subscribe and share and like this video, leave me a comment. Call me out on stuff. I want you guys to keep me honest on this, okay? So, look, the same way I had a pastor a while back when I was growing up. He didn't want us to just take his word for it. He wanted us to actually go into the Bible, to actually do our own reading and make sure that he was quoting the correct verses, that he was speaking correctly. And he absolutely encouraged us to call him out if he misspoke, if he misquoted the Bible, because that was very important to him. And it should be to you too, if you're a follower of Christ. You want to make sure that you get it right when you're speaking about the Word of God. So, again, if I misspeak about anything football related, anything scripturally related, please, by all means, down the bottom, leave me a comment. So, today we're getting into wide receivers who have found a new home. Now, I want to take you back just for a second and remind you of our verse from the last episode, Numbers 13:30, where we spoke about the children of Israel getting right up to the border of the promised land, sending in the spies, getting some recon done, and seeing the fact that what God had promised them was indeed true, that everything he said was real. It was there in the promised land. All they had to do was go in. They had 10 spies that were like, hey, those guys are way too big, we're way too small. They were looking at themselves, they were judging themselves by what they saw, not by what God saw in them. But you had this one guy, Caleb, who spoke up and said, hey, we should go in. We should take this land. God's already promised it to us. That's why it's called the promised land. Let's go get what we came to get. So they didn't listen. They wound up wandering around the wilderness for 40 years. Now, some of these running backs that we had in last episode, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, these guys have seemingly found the promised land. They've gone and gotten a new home. They've gone in, they've taken over the backfield. It's theirs. And we expect big things from them. Guys like Tony Pollard, it's still a wait and see type thing. Has he gone in or is he still wandering? We don't know. Much like this new list of wide receivers that we are about to cover, the teams that have signed them. And wide receiver is kind of a different animal than running backs, especially in fantasy football. In fantasy football, especially if you're playing a PPR league, which remember is points per reception, wide receivers are far more valuable than running backs unless they're involved in the passing game, which not a whole lot of them are. Pardon me. So today's verse is Psalms chapter 20, verse 7. Now, why did I pick this verse? Because it talks about trust. Where are you trusting? Much like these teams, they are trusting in these wide receivers that they signed. These wide receivers have signed with these teams, trusting that they are in a better situation. So I'm going to read this verse to you. It's Psalms chapter 20, verse 7 from the NIV. It reads like this: Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. Now, I want to ask you something. What new have you started this past year? Have you started a new relationship? Have you started a new job? Have you started a new workout routine? What have you started? See, we've all started something new. Every day we wake up, we've started something new. Now, whether it's with a new day with the old routines or a new day with a new job, with a new outlook, with just a new purpose in your heart that you've got set before you, and you got this whole new thing going on. What or who are you trusting in to complete yourself? I want to read you Matthew chapter 7, verses 7 through 8. Ask and it will be given. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, the one who seeks finds, and to the one who knocks, the door shall be open. Now, some of these receivers, they came knocking, they came seeking, they're looking to find. Maybe you are too. Maybe you're out there and you're seeking to find purpose in your life. You're seeking to find direction in your life. You're seeking to find what your job should be fulfilling for you, what your marriage should look like, how to deal with your kids. I mean, my kids are pretty much grown. I still have one who's still a teenager. Well, I have two who are still teenagers, but for the most part, I'm dealing with young adults. Maybe you're dealing with younger children and you're lost and you don't know what to depend on. Let me tell you right now, lean on God, because here's the thing. Just because you're knocking doesn't mean that God's going to answer that knock in your time frame. See, a lot of us want to knock and have the door open for us like that. And sometimes the answer is, wait a minute. Now, just because he says not now doesn't mean that the answer is no. It just means you're not ready. So how do you get ready? Go back to Psalms chapter 20, verse 7. Some trust in chariots, some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. Now, translate that into modern times. Instead of chariots, maybe you're trusting in your job to get you where you want to go. For horses, maybe you're trusting in your friends, in your loved ones to get you where you want to go. They're great. Having a good job is wonderful. Having great friends is awesome. But are you trusting in God? See, your friends and your job and stuff, that's fine, but they can't see the future. They don't know what's coming down the road for you. They don't have a plan tailor-made for your life. God does. So, much like these wide receivers that we're about to get into, they are looking for a team that has a plan for them. That's why they are where they are. Because if they were happy where they were at before, they would have still been there. They wouldn't have either talked themselves out of a place for the second time, like our first wide receiver we're going to talk about. Uh, they wouldn't have jumped ship because the philosophy changed, like the third one, the second and third one that we're going to talk about. They would have stayed where they were at. Now, are you searching? Are you trying to depend on worldly things, on Facebook, on TikTok, on Instagram to get you the happiness that you're looking for? Look, all those things are great and they can be used for the glory of God, much like this channel that I'm trying to do. I want this to serve God, period. I don't care about the view. Look, I tell you guys, subscribe, like, share, and that's great. I'm trying to promote God's word through this channel. You guys don't like the channel? That's great. Hey, more power to you. I still love you guys and I still care about you. And I will answer any question that you have anytime you have it. But I'm not doing this for you guys. I'm doing this for God and his calling on my life. So I hope that you guys understand that. And I hope you see it. So let's get into our wide receiver list. And as we're going through it, remember, who are you trusting in? Because wide receivers are extremely important, especially in a PPR league. And you have to depend on them. You have to put your trust in them. Okay. You've got to be able to have a good core group, typically 3. Now, if that doesn't sound like God, Father, God, the Son, God, the Holy Ghost, I don't know what does. So there's another correlation. I keep telling you guys, fantasy football and the Bible they can go hand in hand. And it's not just the small things, it's big things too. But the Bible also goes into your life. So remember, in your marriage, it's you, your wife, and God. And it's the 3 things, man. So let's get into our list here. We're starting off with 30-year-old wide receiver, formerly of the Buffalo Bills, now currently with the Texans. That's right, Stefon Diggs, number 1 receiver on our list. Now, as I said, he's 30 years old. He's still being valued very highly. People are really excited about him being attached to CJ Stroud. Me personally, I'm laying off, but that's just me. I absolutely loved the Texans wide receiving group of Nico Collins and Tank Dell going into this year before this trade or before the signing. I'm telling you guys, there's just too many mouths to feed, and I don't like this fit. I don't like Stefon Diggs. I'm not saying that he's not going to be valuable, that he's not going to be productive. He probably will be. But this could be your Judas. This could be the guy who's going to betray you if you draft him too high. Now, last year, he finished as the wide receiver 9, despite the last, I believe it was like 4 or 5 weeks after they made a change in offensive coordinators in Buffalo, and they purposely went away from Stefon Diggs, went more to the run. So they're changing their philosophy in Buffalo, and they're pushing him out. So he wound up as a wide receiver 9. Now that's respectable. That's good. But I will tell you right now, the guy in our league who had Stefon Diggs, I personally tried to trade for Stefon Diggs early in the year when he was just balling out, just torching the competition. But that was with the old offensive coordinator. Now, the new offensive coordinator that's coming for Buffalo is totally changing. That's why James Cook is a rising star in the running back landscape for fantasy football. But Stefon Diggs last year, his ADP was 4. Now, if you draft a wide receiver 4th, that means that they're going between picks 1 and about pick 6 or 7. Because there's not a whole lot of running backs that you're going to take over a wide receiver 4. There was a lot of expectation with him and Josh Allen in Buffalo. He was the clear alpha. He was the clear number one wide receiver. Now, you guys are going to hear me say alpha a few times when I'm talking about wide receivers. That just means that they are the alpha dog. They are the number one guy on that team. So that's what that means. Now, this year, as I said, he is being drafted as the wide receiver 16 currently on Sleeper. That puts him about the third round. Now, Nico is going just a little bit higher, so you're having to pay a little bit more to get Nico Collins. And Tank Dell is going even later, so you're picking Tank Dell up in about round 5. So, what do you want to do? Do you want to pay up for a guy who may be your Judas, or do you want to go with Tank Dell, who is clearly and has been publicly said to be CJ Stroud's guy? That is the guy that CJ Stroud likes the most, is Tank Dell. He doesn't have a relationship with Stephon Diggs yet. They haven't had a whole year together. He had a year together with Nico Collins. He had a year with Tank Dell. He wanted Tank Dell. That was the guy that he wanted on his team. He inherited Nico Collins. He was forced. He's being forced to take Stephon Diggs. Me personally, if you're going to pick a Texans wide receiver to lean on, to put your trust in, I would take Tank Dell over Stephon Diggs in a heartbeat. There's other players at that price that I would take over Stephon Diggs, and we'll get into that. Remember, on our mock draft episode with my boy Blaze. So Blaze, if you're watching, I'm promoting you, buddy. Don't disappoint. Make sure you're doing your homework. Now, like I said, the depth chart, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and while I'm running through this list, I'm going to be giving you guys a little bit different stats from the running backs. The running backs, I gave you what their offensive line was and what it is this year. For the wide receivers today, I'm going to be going through the depth chart. I'm going to be going through their quarterbacks and their backup quarterbacks. Now, you might be thinking, well, why do I need to be concerned with their backup quarterbacks? As you're going to see, numbers 1, 2, and 3, the backup quarterbacks, a little bit suspect. They've had some flashes. They've been okay. When we get to the last two, number 4 and 5, you're going to see a drastic change in the quality of the backup quarterback behind the starter on these teams. So, again, Stephon Diggs, last year's ADP of 4, paid off with a finish statistically of 9. Guys, I don't know about you. I'm not happy if I draft a guy to be 4 and he's 9. Like, he let me down a lot. If I'm going to draft a guy that high, I need consistency. I need to be sure that that guy is going to be my guy. Okay. So his quarterback, CJ Stroud, his backup, Davis Mills. Now, some of you might remember Davis Mills from a couple of years ago, where he was actually serviceable. Like, there were people out there who were streaming, and I'll define streaming in a second. They were streaming Davis Mills some weeks in order to fill spots. Now, when you stream a quarterback, that means that he's not on anybody's roster, that he's on the waiver wire, that you can go out and pick him up for that matchup. That's the only reason that you're picking him up, because he has a very favorable matchup coming up against the defense that they're facing. So it's a very matchup dependent type thing. So if he's facing a really, like, the bottom 4 defenses against the pass, and you have your starting quarterback is either on a bye or he's injured and he's out, and you don't have a backup, or you don't have a backup that has as good of a matchup, you're going to drop somebody off your roster that really isn't performing. You're going to pick this guy up and you're going to play him. And then the next week you drop him and you pick up somebody else off the waiver wire. So, but again, we'll get into that a little later in the season, typically after the week 1, when we go and show you how to go and put in your request for free agents off the waiver wire. I'm going to walk you guys through everything. Now, this is on the Sleeper app. So if you have another app, please hit me up. And if you're having problems with it, let me know and I'll see if I can work through it with you. Okay. But to recap, Stephon Diggs, wide receiver 4 ADP, wide receiver 9 finished last year, currently wide receiver 16 going off the board in round 3. Okay. Depth chart, he's got Nico Collins, Tank Dell, very high-powered offense. If you want a piece of this, I can't blame you. I can't be mad at you, but go in with the correct expectation for this player. Okay, guys. Number 2, Mike Williams, formerly of the Chargers and one of Justin Herbert's favorite targets. He now goes to a Jets team. So he's going from the left coast to the right coast. And guys, I don't know. He's 29 years old. Okay. The depth chart behind him it's basically Garrett Wilson and then Mike Williams. Now, this is provided that Mike Williams can stay healthy. He has had a litany of injuries throughout his career. He has not stayed healthy. He has not been able to finish the entire season. So he's definitely, the injury bug has definitely bitten him several times, and it's reflected in his ADP and his production. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Mike Williams as a fantasy wide receiver. He's a little better in what's called best ball. Best ball, basically, you just have to draft a team and you leave it alone, and that's it, and you're done. But the strategy is a lot different and it's a little more complicated to get into than a beginner channel wants to really dive into. If you want to talk a little more about best ball, again, down the bottom, shoot me a message and let me know, and we'll talk a little more about it. But the depth chart, Garrett Wilson, who is, and I didn't write this down, I apologize. So let's check this out real quick. Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson last year was the wide receiver 26. Now, that doesn't have to do a whole lot with his talent or his ability. It has to do mainly with the fact that Aaron Rodgers got hurt about 4 seconds into his career as a Jet. Then he had really bad quarterback play. So you really can't blame Garrett Wilson a whole lot for the output that he had last year. Now, Mike Williams coming in with a now supposedly healthy Aaron Rodgers. Look, last year I was all about watching Aaron Rodgers. I wanted to see him succeed. I still do this year. But a 30-year-old, well, I think, he's 40 now. 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers coming off an Achilles. It's kind of rough. It's kind of rough. And to pick a wide receiver that has already injury, I hate to say injury prone, but has had multiple injuries in the past, it's kind of scary to draft him. Now, last year, his ADP was wide receiver 29. Now, I had to scroll down a whole lot to find out where Mike Williams finished last year because he was injured. He finished as the wide receiver 110. Yes, I said that. 110, triple digits here, guys. 110 finish for Mike Williams. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Now, here's the thing, is that Mike Williams is going from a really, really young, well, not really, really young, but a young, upcoming Justin Herbert led offense to a older Aaron Rodgers. Not just that, but Nathaniel Hackett is the OC. He's doing the play calling, and Nathaniel Hackett and Aaron Rodgers have worked together before. They are all about slowing the pace of play. That's not what you want to hear when you are drafting wide receivers. That's what you want to hear when you're drafting running backs. That's why Breece Hall is being drafted so high. They think that their defense is phenomenal. The Jets have one of the best defenses in the league. They're not going to have to score a whole lot of points in order to win games. So they're not going to ask Aaron Rodgers to throw a whole lot. He's not going to get in shootouts like he did in Green Bay. He actually has a defense to lean on. He doesn't have to do as much as he's done in the past. So having Mike Williams here is basically like an insurance policy. Okay. Now, speaking of insurance policies, I want to ask you a spiritual question real quick. If you're saved, if you know God is your personal Lord and Savior, let me ask you this. What are you doing with it? Now, if you're like this next guy coming up, he's done a whole lot with his career. You can see the work that he's put in. You can see the dedication that he's had. Can that be said for you? Or are you just walking around with fire insurance? And what do you mean fire insurance? Well, you're basically just insured from burning in hell. That's pretty much all you're doing if you just got saved. You're doing the bare minimum. Do you really want a wide receiver who does the bare minimum? No. You want a wide receiver who does above and beyond, who goes out every single play, makes the effort. That's the same thing that God wants from you. God wants you to make sure that you go out there and that you are performing like he designed you to. He designed you. He put it inside of you. He wants you to go out there and perform the way that he knows you can. So, speaking of performing the way that you know you can, guys, you know what time it is. I talk a lot on this show. That's why I don't have a co-host. Well, it's not why I don't have a co-host, but I don't have a co-host and I have to talk a whole lot. But as you guys just saw, Zia Rotisserie Grill, my longest and oldest sponsor of the show. You can find them at 235 Ducey Road in Lafayette, Louisiana. If you need them for catering, you can give them a call, 337-406-0013. They're behind the Grand Theater off of Johnson Street and in front of Red Laurel's Health Club off of Ducey Road. Guys, I got it for you. I hope you go down and take advantage of it. Special promotion for this show, for my viewers. Go down, tell them that you heard about Zia on Faith and Football with Neil, and you can get for the table a free appetizer of your choice. Whatever you want, whatever appetizer they have, you can get one for free on me. So, guys, go down there, tell them that you found out about Zia through Faith and Football, and make sure you say hi to Leonard or Heath, Tucker, Adam, whoever is down there managing, and mention my name and mention the show, and make sure that you show them that you're subscribed, and we'll get you hooked up with that free appetizer. And remember, if you need catering in the area, nobody better to call than Andy. Call him 337-406-0013. Take care of all your catering needs. So go down there and check out Zia. I'd appreciate it. Now, the next guy, like I was talking about, the guy who has put in a whole lot of dedication that you can see, also formerly of the Chargers, Mr. Keenan Allen is number 3 on this list. So he is currently with the Bears. Now, the Bears have a unique situation. This is probably the best situation that any rookie quarterback has ever stepped into in recent memory. I cannot remember for the life of me a better situation for Caleb Williams to step into than to have this lineup at this stage of his career, just starting out in the NFL. Look, guys, he's got Keenan Allen. He's got DJ Moore. He's got Rome Odunze. Rome Odunze was taken the 9th pick overall. Guys, they took the number 1 at the quarterback. They took a number 9 in the first round, 8 picks later, to make sure that this guy succeeds. They made sure that they went out and got probably one of the most consummate professional wide receivers that this game has known in a while. Now, I'm not going to say on the Jerry Rice level because I have a soft spot in my heart for Jerry. I actually got to meet him, and growing up watching him, he was just special. Um, Keenan Allen, I'm not putting him quite on that level, but this guy is a consummate professional. Okay. So you get that kind of dedication, that kind of heart, for lack of a better term, and put him with a guy who has the tools to be a great NFL quarterback, and you're going to get something special. Now, here's the only drawback that I see to Keenan Allen being in Chicago. It's the fact that there are so many options that they have surrounded Caleb Williams with, that I don't know how much is going to be available for Keenan Allen to be productive. His ADP last year was wide receiver 8. Now, he did have an injury, so that kind of took him out of a game. Put him at wide receiver 8. I'm sorry. His ADP was 18. He finished as wide receiver 8. Let me just verify that real quick, guys. That's why I love Sleeper. It's like on the fly. Yes. Sorry. So his ADP last year was 18. He finished as the wide receiver 8. And last year, that's right, he didn't have any injuries, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I'm going to walk you guys through. Oh no, I'm sorry. He did miss. He missed time the last 4 games. So the last 4 games of the season, he missed out. Um, so he would have even finished higher than that if he had finished the last 4 of the season, because he was just on a tear. He was just ripping up the competition, guys. But with the Bears, rookie quarterback, good defense, it's really hard for me to get to tell you that Keenan Allen is going to be what he was last year. Now, that's going to be the expectation. Now, he's being drafted at wide receiver 29. That's his ADP for this year. That puts him about round 6. So if you want to take a shot on Keenan Allen and Caleb Williams duo, go for it. Personally, I think that DJ Moore is going to be more the guy in Chicago than he could possibly even be a Doomsday, but it's TBD. Rookie, a Doomsday rookie. You've got DJ Moore, who had a breakout last year, but the breakout was with Justin Fields. So anything that was done last year can be thrown out the window because Justin Fields is in Pittsburgh, and we're going to be talking about him on the next episode when I run through quarterbacks and tight ends. And also, guys, the backup quarterback in Chicago, Tyson Bagent. Now, you might remember him from last year. He like I said before, he was serviceable. He didn't do like god awful for the type of quarterback that he is, but he's not somebody that I want to, latch on to. He's not going to step into and be Caleb Williams 2.0. He's not going to be an adequate replacement for Caleb Williams. They're going to start relying a lot heavier on the run game if Caleb Williams ever goes down. Not wishing injury on anyone, but just stating fact. So, recap real quick. Keenan Allen to the Bears. Really deep wide receiver room in DJ Moore and Rome Odunze. Run the backfield. Look, they've got a good run game. They've got a good offensive line. They've got a good defense. So I think that this is going to be one of those things where they're going to be a better NFL team than they will a fantasy team for you to latch on to. Now, if you want to take Caleb Williams and see what he can do, great. But take him as a backup. Okay, don't take him as a starter. Don't put him as your QB1. All right. Now, number 4. This is where it starts to get interesting. Mr. Hollywood Brown, number 4 on this list, coming from formerly of the Baltimore Ravens, then went to Arizona and did absolutely nothing. Reflective in his ADP and in his stat finish, his ADP last year was 34. He is 27 years old. By the way, Mike Williams, 29. Keenan Allen, 32. So this is the youngest wide receiver. And if you have been in fantasy football for any amount of time, Marquise Hollywood Brown seems like he's been in forever. Now, that could be the fact that he was in Baltimore, he had a breakout, a lot of expectations there, left, went to Arizona. Again, a lot of expectations coming with Kyler Murray. Didn't really click with Kyler too much and ended up last year ADP of 34 with a finish of 52. Finished as a wide receiver 52 last year. The depth chart is absolutely mind-boggling with the KC team. We have Rashid Rice, who's probably facing a suspension for off-field shenanigans. Sky Moore, who, look, they drafted this guy. They loved him. He really hasn't panned out, but they're still trying to get something happen. Mecole Hardman is back with KC. I don't know what it is about Mecole Hardman and Andy Reid, but Andy Reid loves this guy. And this new rookie, guys, I'm telling you, Xavier Worthy. If I were to pick one receiver early in the season to put a bet on, it would be Xavier Worthy. This guy is the guy from Texas who absolutely broke the combine. This is the guy who is the fastest man to ever run a 40 at the NFL combine. Okay. Now, I'm not putting him in the same category as Tyreek Hill. However, he does have the abilities of a Tyreek. He's a burner. Okay. I'm absolutely loving this guy, and especially as ADP. And we're going to get into that after we do the quarterbacks and tight ends. We're going to go into a rookie rundown of guys that I'm high on, guys that you should be looking out for later in your draft, and guys who you should be drafting early in your draft and actually taking a shot on. Okay. But Xavier Worthy is definitely going to be on that list. Now, Hollywood Brown, his ADP this year is 39. Now, here's what I see happening with Hollywood Brown. I see Hollywood being very valuable the first few weeks. However long Rashid Rice is out for, that's about how long I expect Hollywood Brown to actually be a viable fantasy asset in this KC offense. Now, given that it's Andy Reid, given that it's Patrick Mahomes, I think that they can do something special with Hollywood and actually bring a little something to him out. However, with the way that Rashid Rice played last year, with the way that he had that just something about him and that connection with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, when he gets back, don't expect him to not pick up where he left off from, because he's going to pick up exactly where he left off from and just take it farther. Okay. That's what I see coming from Rashid Rice afterwards, which means that Hollywood Brown is going to be one of those. You're going to pick him up. You're going to play him for about 3 weeks because you're looking at probably about 2 or 3 game suspension. Once he has a big game, trade him immediately. And we're going to talk more later on in the season, probably during the mock draft episode with Blaze. Mention you again, buddy. And we're going to talk about how to trade, who to trade, when to trade, things like that. Try to give you a little ins and outs, tips and tricks. Now, again, the depth chart is crazy here, and not to mention the fact that They still got Travis Kelce. But I'm going to get into that a little later because I could do a whole episode on the Chiefs. That's just how crazy they are for fantasy football. Now, here's where it gets interesting for the backup. The backup for Patrick Mahomes, for those of you who haven't been keeping up, Carson Wentz. Yep. You know anything, I know about Carson Wentz. Not only did he just torture me as an Eagle, he let me down as a Washington Redskin. Carson. Now he's with KC. Now, as much as I want to down on Carson Wentz just for the letdown and the performances that he gave against Washington, moment of silence for my D-line that couldn't stop him when he was an Eagle. But Carson Wentz has been and can be a very adequate and productive backup quarterback, especially in an Andy Reid offense. Look, he's already got a connection with Andy Reid. Okay. Andy Reid knows how to use players to their strengths. Okay. I don't doubt that if Patrick Mahomes went down, that Carson Wentz couldn't step in and KC not miss a beat. They've got the personnel, they've got the coaching staff, they got the mindset to do it. Now, that probably would mean that if that happened, I would suspect that Hollywood would be a little more valuable, just for the simple fact that he's more of a veteran than Rashee Rice is. Carson Wentz would probably be more comfortable with him than he would with Rashee Rice. So, just a thought, something to keep in mind when you're drafting. Now, this last guy that we're going to talk about, and I can't hit the last guy without hitting my last sponsors. So, hi to Keller's Bakery in Youngsville. My boy Dusty, what's happening? Hope you're watching. Remember, Keller's Bakery in Youngsville, 627 Lafayette Street in Youngsville, Louisiana. Now, they're not open just yet. When they do open, we are going to be doing a live. Make sure that you're subscribed down the bottom so you know when we're going live. And we're going to show you all the ins and outs. We're going to show you some specialties that they have down there. But they open the second week of August. We're going to get down there before the draft. Because remember, our draft here is also going to be live. It's going to be on September 3rd at 5 o'clock. So make sure you're tuning in. And we're going to show you what a live draft is really going to be about. Okay. It's really fun. I know online drafts are cool and they're, convenient, things like that, but getting together, seeing everything that happened and cutting up, it's going to be awesome. Make sure you're tuning in. But we're going to go down to Youngsville. We're going to go down to 627 Lafayette Street in Youngsville, go see Keller's Bakery, and we're going to get you guys a special gift to go down there. When you're down there and you say that you've heard about them on Faith and Football with me, we're going to get you a little something special. Okay. A little something sweet for you while you're down there picking up your donuts or your baked goods, things like that. We're going to get you hooked up. Okay, guys. Make sure you go down there, see them Tuesday through Saturday, 6 a.m. until 3 p.m. Okay. Make sure that you tell them that I sent you and that you heard about them on Faith and Football. Now, the next guys I want to talk about, Amis Groceries, my newest sponsor of the show, 603 Jefferson Street, inside of Gordon Square, downtown Lafayette. If you're around downtown Lafayette and you're hungry and it's lunchtime, there's a bunch of places that you can go, but please make sure that you pass by Amis and pick up a muffalata. Guys, you can go down and you can pick up an icy. They have absolutely phenomenal snacks down there. They even got some freeze-dried candy. Off the chain. I love it. It's all local. They have local farm fresh eggs. They've got local beef, local pork. Go down there, check them out. Tell Bradley that Neil sent you and tell him that you heard about him on Faith and Football. And I'll be talking to him as well and see if we can get you a little something special down at Amis as well. Remember, that's Amis at 603 Jefferson Street inside of Gordon Square. So the last guy on the list that we're doing, number 5, Diontae Johnson, formerly of the Pittsburgh Steelers, currently of the Carolina Panthers, 28 years old, wide receiver. Last year, ADP of 35, finished as wide receiver 46. Now, would he still be on any list if he wasn't a free agent? Yes. This is a guy who's going to be, I'll call it right now, he's going to be the number 1 target for Bryce Young. And I know you're probably thinking, if you were in fantasy football last year, you're probably cringing at the mention of the name Bryce Young. But let me give you a little glimmer of hope, not just for Bryce Young, but for Diontae Johnson. Y'all remember last year with the Bucs in Tampa, how everybody knew that they knew what Baker was. They knew what Baker Mayfield was. He was a journeyman. He was a stopgap quarterback. He was just a placeholder. Not last year. Last year, he was a productive fantasy asset. And he helped support not 1, but 2 main fantasy assets in Mike Evans and Rachaad White. Guys, there's only one man that was responsible for the rise or the comeback of Baker Mayfield. The same guy who was responsible 2 years ago in Seattle for the rise of Geno Smith. Y'all remember Geno Smith? Remember he got ran out of town, got punched in the face by a teammate with the Jets. Then he winds up in Seattle and out of nowhere has this absolutely phenomenal killer quarterback season for fantasy. What happened? Like, did this guy just like start doing some performance enhancing drugs? Not saying that he did, but that's not what happened. I give you 2 words. Dave Canales. The same guy who was responsible for Geno Smith, the same guy who was responsible for Baker Mayfield, is the same guy that is with Bryce Young this year. Yes. He is the, if I'm not mistaken, the new head coach of the Carolina Panthers. And look for some special things to be coming out of Bryce Young this year. And that train is going to translate into special things for Diontae Johnson. Diontae Johnson is not washed. 28 years old is not washed for a wide receiver, okay? We just talked about Hollywood Brown. Now, if you were to tell me that Hollywood Brown was younger than Diontae Johnson, I wouldn't have believed you if I hadn't looked it up, okay? Diontae Johnson has stuff left. He's got a ton of juice left in his tank. Now, he's got Adam Thielen. Guys, Adam Thielen should be retired right now, okay? Now, last year, absolutely phenomenal for fantasy football, and it came from the same quarterback. So Bryce Young, without any tutelage, without any help, can make Adam Thielen a fantasy asset, a fantasy dominant asset. Just think about what he can do for Diontae Johnson. Next guy, Xavier Ledet. Guys, Xavier Ledet's a rookie. He's still going to be learning the NFL game. Is he a good rookie? Yes. I think that Xavier Ledet is going to be a good NFL wide receiver. Now, you're worried about Bryce Young. You're worried about, well, what if he gets hurt? What if he's no good? What if he just sucks? Did I mention who the backup was yet? Nope. The backup in Carolina is none other than the Red Rifle himself, Andy Dalton. Yes, Andy Dalton, formerly of the Cincinnati Bengals, formerly of the Dallas Cowboys. think he was formerly somewhere else as well. But currently, the backup quarterback for the Carolina Panthers, Andy Dalton. Me personally, this is the best situation for Diontae Johnson to walk into. You have a second year quarterback. Now, second year quarterbacks, especially taking as high as Bryce Young was, should take another step forward. Now, with Dave Canales coming in, whispering a little bit, doing his little quarterback whisper thing, I definitely think that Diontae Johnson is worth the 6th-round price tag that he's currently going at. Maybe even jump up and grab him a little bit early if you want. Not saying you have to. And if your league is sleeping on him, you might get a value in round 7 or 8. Who knows? But if he does fall that far, please snatch this man up because he is going to be absolutely phenomenal. Okay. Now, there are a couple of news things that I want to get into before I get into my speed round of remaining wide receivers that have changed places. Brandon Aiyuk is in camp, still doesn't have a deal. Probably might not have a deal, but I did read on Bleacher Report earlier tonight that the Patriots tried to trade for him before the draft, offering a 2nd-round pick. Now, if Brandon Aiyuk goes to New England, I'm going to have very, very, very conflicting feelings about this because I love Brandon Aiyuk. I absolutely love this man as a wide receiver for fantasy, but the situation in New England is absolutely horrible. I don't like the coaching that's in place there right now. I don't know what the philosophy is. I don't know what the direction is. I'd like Jacoby Brissett as a quarterback. He's fine, but they got a rookie quarterback sitting behind him. Okay, Drake May is the quarterback for New England's future. If he gets a shot, look, if Brandon Aiyuk goes there, he's definitely going to get all the volume because they got nobody else. Okay, there's nobody that I want to see from New England. They've got this kid Jalen Polk. He will not be making a mention on my wide receiving rookie list or on my rookie list of players that you want to target, rookies that you want to target. Even a late shot, I'm good. Now, anybody who knows me, who works with me, who talked fantasy football with me, and my boy D Money, you knew my reaction to this when it happened. I kind of overreacted a little bit to this news, and this is why we in fantasy football have a overreaction Monday. This was an overreaction. I kind of overreacted to the news of Cam Akers being signed by the Houston Texans. I've had a little bit of time to calm down and compress and kind of dive into it a little bit and take a step back and look at it in a broader spectrum. Um, the running back room in Houston is a little crowded, so it's possible that Cam Akers doesn't even make the team. So we're still sitting here middle of July, and we're still talking. Camps are just getting started. Cuts haven't been made yet, so I really don't know if Cam Akers is even going to make this squad. However, I didn't like this when it happened. I was huge on Cam Akers when he came into the league. I wanted him. I actually said to several people that I thought he could be the offensive rookie of the year. That's how much I believed in him, but didn't happen. Injuries happen. Got in the doghouse with not Shan. I want to say Shanahan, but it's not Shanahan. It's coach of the Rams. I'm blanking. Sorry. But yeah, so he got in the doghouse there, and he came out for a little bit, but got hurt again. Wound up in Minnesota. Had his career derailed through Achilles. now signing with Houston. It's something to watch. It's not something to be overly concerned about. Okay. So let's dive into the rapid fire round of wide receiver movement. We're going to start off top of my list. Curtis Samuel. Yes, that Curtis Samuel right there. Now with the Buffalo Bills, age 27. Look, he's probably going to end up as the number one wide receiver, but not the number one target. The number one target in Buffalo is probably going to wind up being Dalton Kincaid, tight end, just because of the change in philosophy. And they got a few mouths to feed wide receiver wise in Buffalo. But if they're going away from the pass more and going more to the run, leaning on their defense more to win games, then I don't see Curtis Samuel being that big, but take a shot on him. He's definitely with the best quarterback for fantasy that you can get in Josh Allen. Next up, Jerry Jeudy, age 25 for the Browns. Now, when he was in Denver, a lot of expectation on this guy. Goes to the Browns. It's kind of murky waters. You got Amari Cooper still there. You don't know which Deshaun Watson that you're going to get. So that's TBD. And I don't know if I want to ride that ride with Jerry Jeudy. I just don't. Going back to the Bills, another former Bill. We talked about Stephon Diggs at the top of the show. We're going to talk about Gabe Davis at the bottom of the show. Now, Gabe Davis is the second youngest rookie on this list, tying Jerry Jeudy at age 25. Guys, look, I don't know what to tell you about Gabe Davis, but he's going from Josh Allen to Trevor Lawrence. Now, Trevor Lawrence could bounce back and have an absolute killer season, but his boy, Christian Kirk, is his boy. So I don't see Gabe Davis coming in and just setting the world on fire. Speaking of the Jags, a former Jag, Calvin Ridley, now with the Tennessee Titans. Look, the Titans, we're going to talk about two of them at the same time. We're going to talk about Calvin Ridley, age 29, and 29-year-old Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd, formerly of the Cincinnati Bengals. He was a number 3 with the Bengals. Now he goes to Will Levis, where they have in Tennessee, where they have DeAndre Hopkins, Calvin Ridley, and Tyler Boyd. A lot of veteran leadership, not going to lie. The veterans that they have surrounding Will Levis are absolutely phenomenal. And about 4 years ago, this would have been the best wide receiving core in the league, hands down. Now, I just don't see it, guys. Now, we're going to skip down, talk about two Falcons. We're going to talk about Rondale Moore, age 24, the youngest on our list, coming out of Arizona, where he just didn't take. He had flashes, but he goes to a Falcons team that is in total revamp mode. They've got a new head coach. They got a new OC. They got a new quarterback. Okay. Kirk Cousins, can he support multiple fantasy assets? Yes. Here's the problem. Number one, the other Falcon that I'm going to be talking about is Darnell Mooney, age 26. He was requested by Kirk Cousins to come to Atlanta. So when you got a quarterback that's requesting a wide receiver to be there, plus you already have Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson, that's just way too many mouths to feed. Don't sweat Rondale Moore. Okay. Now, injuries happen. We'll revisit this. But even then, you're talking about what, the fifth option? I don't want to ride that ride, guys. Last on the list, Zay Jones, currently of the Arizona Cardinals, age 29. Look, he's leaving Trevor Lawrence. He's going to Kyler Murray. However, Kyler's already got two guys that are going to be absolute monsters for fantasy. Marvin Harrison Jr., if you guys haven't heard about him, he's the number one rookie off the board. Wide receiver off the board. Okay. Hands down, this guy's going to be phenomenal. Number two is Trey McBride, who is currently going probably about, if I'm not mistaken, I've seen him go as high as the third round for a tight end. That's just unheard of. I've seen him go before Kelsey in some mock drafts. I personally am not taking him that high. I would love to have him on my squad, but I'm not paying that price tag. But if you're looking at Zay Jones, you really need to message me down below because you need help. So hit me up. I would love to coach you up on your mock drafting. Because if you're drafting Zay Jones in your mocks, there's other guys you can take. So, guys, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Old Faces, New Places for Faith in Football. Next episode is going to be quarterbacks and tight ends. The list won't be quite as long. There's only a handful of guys who change teams, not quite as exhaustive as the running backs and wide receivers episode. But I do want to remind you about our scripture of the day, Psalms 20, verse 7. Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. Who are you trusting? Who are you putting your trust in? Who are you going to lean on? Are you going to lean on this world? Or are you going to lean on the creator of this world? It's real simple, guys. Lean on the creator. Don't lean on creations of man. If you need something down at the bottom, whether it's spiritual, whether it's football related, hit me up. I'd be more than happy to talk to you. So, guys, we'll see you guys next time. I appreciate y'all tuning in for Faith in Football. My name is Neil. And remember, football's good, but God is greater. We'll see you guys next time.